real loud. Oh, because you were on your phone. Like normally people on their computer, I always hear it on their side. Like, it's recording. Oh, okay. Alrighty then.
At work, our WebEx announces when it records, so I'm used to it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I'm so excited. All right. Thanks everybody for listening to Nia's Divine Garden. I am back with another awakening story. For those if this is the first one you're popping into, this is going to sound different than the other ones. So if you go back and listen to the other ones, the intention is going to sound the same but different. So initially, these were to kick off and introduce an event I was planning, the Melanated Meadow, until last night, where I got a full download that the vision of the Meadow as a vendor event was literally to trigger me to do these podcasts. It was not about the vendor event. It was about me pulling people in to tell these stories. So I thought that was really great. And the intention of these stories is really to illuminate what it looks like for people, specifically in the Black community, that decided to go back to their indigenous practice, who went away from organized religion. What does that look like? How does it the same? How is it different? Whatever they want to share in these stories, that's the point, because it's to start the conversation so that people who are in organized religion can maybe have a more realistic sense of people who are not in organized religion and realize we're really on the same path. So I'm really geeked because I got my girl, my sister, a fellow goddess, Nikwonn Robinson Cooke, the founder and CEO of Kim Jewelry. She is such an amazing person. I met her, I think it was 19 years old, on Black Planet.
Black Planet, oh my God.
On Black Planet, and she happened to be in town. We met in the parking lot of the call center, and like we've been like friends ever since. And I'm so proud of her. I'm so proud of her business. She's an inspiration to me. And she's actually one of the first people I knew for sure wasn't in a, like, didn't have an organized religious practice. So I knew I had to include her in these stories. So Nikwonn, thank you for coming. Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Listen, first of all, I just have a moment of nostalgia when you say the word Black Planet.
I know, right?
Black Planet, MySpace vibes, all of that.
Everybody knew HTML.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we used to copy paste. We could have sworn we were all website designers.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm Nikwonn. Some people call me Kwon. Some people call me Kwani. I don't have a preference. When people ask me, you can call me either of the three, and I'm good. Yeah. So yes, I definitely met Danya back when she was a part. She doesn't know. She was an instrumental part of my journey when I left my now ex-husband. I had a sense of loss of identity. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know my purpose. And she was a part of the beginning of my journey to find myself. When I moved back to Augusta from then Savannah, she is actually the first person that I met outside of like being around my family. And I decided to explore all the things that I had kind of buried deep within myself that I was like, I wasn't allowed to explore. And she made me feel comfortable in that space to just be my authentic self, because I feel like for the first 21 years of my life, I had been kind of faking it. I had been doing what was expected of me. And she made me feel very safe. And it was with her that I had my first girlfriend, that I did explore the idea of not following organized religion. I was birthed into a very religious household. My grandma actually referred to us as being a part of a cult. That's how structured we were. And I don't know if Danya realizes that she truly was the first person in my life where I started to explore who I really was. I would not be where I am or who I was without you. So I was just newly leaving in a very abusive, mentally, emotionally, and physical marriage. I had two girls. They were 2.5 and 4 years old when we
Lord.
met. And I had been, I was sad because I was like this hypo individual that was supposed to be a lawyer, all these great things. And I just consider myself a failure, but I ended up going back to college while we were friends. I don't know if you realize that. Finished up my degree, got a good job. And then I decided to I went to an online school and I started exploring, studying like gemstones. I studied herbs. It was actually witchschool.com or something like that. It was what it was called, how I started. Don't let me scare you off. But then that's when I realized feelings I had for, and she made me feel like it was okay to explore them because there was no sense of judgment. Whereas friends I had for years, if I ever mentioned not going to church or not following the religion, I always felt that side eye. So I would hold myself back from sharing certain things. But it was at that time is where I decided, hey, let's go for it. And yeah, so ever since then, I've been thriving in life. When I say I've been thriving in life, I've been thriving in life since I decided to stay true to myself. Happily married to my wife, Courtney. I have a corporate job within a senior leadership position, which I love tremendously. I own my own business. I'm also CEO of another business. My daughters, they all have businesses. And it was all because I decided that other people could not decide my path. They could not define what happiness and success was. I took ownership and owned that for myself. And so this right here today, it meant a lot to me to make sure that this conversation happens and that it happens to the person that was a part of a strong pivot point in my life. And that's my intro. Hey, girl, hey.
Girl, wait, hold on. I can't see nothing. I had to take glasses off. Can't see nothing though. Okay, we're gonna get into the topic at hand. I did not know. I don't think I knew, or I don't remember that. There's. Thank you. That's it. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Like that was dope, and yeah, that was really dope, and that means a lot. And thank you for letting me be a part of your journey. I didn't realize it was. I didn't. I didn't think it was that much, So yeah, I did.
Girl, do you know your flowers from when you got married and I caught it? It is still the centerpiece of my bedroom because I feel like I cannot even explain it that moment. Like everything you speak into me, it just comes into fruition. It happens. It's still there. I dust it, I take care of it. Everything you've done and been a part of my life, like you have shaped my adulthood. I don't think you realize that. And that's why I always consider, I know we don't label each other best friends, but you might as well be, because you have been top 3, the most influential people over my life. And I talk about you all the time. And it's so crazy because I can call Diane or she can call me. As soon as her voice is on speakerphone, my wife is never, she met you last time we was in the My wife is always like, oh, that's Diane. I'm like, you better know it. They not babe, but babe.
Thank you. This was not, look, ma'am. This is not. Okay. All right. So I want to touch on something. We said so much, but I want to touch on something you said because it was a good segue into my question. That you said your grandma said you was in a cult. So So one, I didn't realize you discovered Wicca after you and I met. I thought it was already there. So, and I remember you coming to me and saying it. I was just like, okay, cool. Like, I didn't feel a way. I was just like, okay, cool. Yeah. But, like, I didn't feel any way about it. So, can you go back to childhood, whatever you're comfortable with, and kind of describe what that was like? And then maybe the first thing that led you to Wicca.
Yeah. Okay. So as a kid, so what's crazy is in my very youngest childhood, my parents were not very religious. It was like they were Christians, but whatever. My mom went through a small stint of being Jehovah Witness, and that was a very peculiar area. I knew that was not right. But then they got involved. They always joined churches where we called ourselves non-denominational or interdenominational, which seems normal enough, but our practices were anything but. So my childhood consisted of going to church between 5 to 6 days a week. That's why when people say they were raised in the church, I'm like, I don't even think y'all understand the extent to which I was raised in the church. We went to church literally 5 to 6 days a week for many, many years, most of my childhood up until I was 18 years old. And my mom she did, so what made my grandmother call it a cult is my mother was very extreme. And so I'm going to share a couple things. Don't judge. So what's crazy is I do want to share at the end at least how my mom is now, because she has her own revolution, but this is what shaped me as an adult. So we weren't allowed to watch Smurfs. We weren't allowed to watch Care Bears. We weren't allowed to watch Roadrunner, all of those things, because she would say things like, demons can come through the TV and be deposited into you and influence you as humans. Roadrunner's too violent. I remember I got caught watching Tom and Jerry and got put on punishment because Tom and Jerry is considered violent. It's not of the Lord. If it's not something that is paying tribute to God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit, then it is of the world. That's how I was raised. People say, oh, I can't listen to anything but Christian music. No, literally, I couldn't listen to instrumental music, not even instrumental. And so I didn't really get my taste of worldly music until I was probably high school. And I was in shock, like, oh, this is really cool. And of course I went extreme and Lil' Kim became my favorite rapper, but that's a story for another day. But it was really, really extreme to where, I always share with people, I really wasn't raised in a traditional Black family household because I've never received a spanking in my life. I didn't get spankings, but what I did get is if I was in trouble, we would be given an entire chapter of the Bible, and I would you have to memorize that chapter, be able to give an interpretation, almost give like a mini sermon back to our parents back on it. And that's part of why my grandma was like, wait, something's not right. She used to like sneak and have talks with me like, hey, if you want me to rescue you, like it was really extreme. And something that stood out is I would really question a lot of the practices that we had implemented in our household. And of course, it was that traditional, you don't question God, you don't question your parents. And so, of course, what did that do? It just made me have more questions.
Exactly.
Yeah. But that's really the gist of how I was raised, where everything was based in everything was centered around religion. Like I couldn't have friends that didn't go to church or had the same beliefs as us. Definitely couldn't do that. And it was just, everything was church, like in the mornings, which I don't think is a bad thing, but we would pray every morning before we left the house. We would have Bible stories would be the last thing that we do prior to going to bed. But it was just, I believe in you should immerse yourself in your beliefs, but it really was taken to a different level, which didn't leave room for me to explore and realize what I truly believed in. It was just what was forced on me.
So that was a lot. And now based on that, now I'm listening and I'm just like, well, how the frick did you get the whip?
So the thing is, I never considered myself Wiccan per se, but I was always fascinated with it. And so here's the thing. My sister went first. I'm
Really?
Yes, I'm 5.5 years older than my sister, but I always considered her so much stronger and braver than me. So I wouldn't dare go against my parents and let them know I was thinking about anything outside of Christianity. I would never dare. I would be fearful for my life. But she did. And she explored it first. And she started sharing small things. And all I could think, I would cry, literally cry in my bed at night because I'm like, oh my God, my sister's going to hell. Like I literally would be like, I'm so sad because when we die, I don't get to spend eternity with my sister. She has to go to hell. And but then there were small things that used to resonate with me. And that's when I started, that's when the internet was super popular. So in the beginning of it, I would Google everything I could about it. I even it was like a priestess in Augusta. So at the time I had just moved to Augusta from Savannah. I found someone. I would go to like online meetups and meet with these people and learn more. And that's when I really started to learn there was something more than just what I had been taught. And then part two, my validation was I was going to Augusta State at the time. I think it was a sophomore in college. And I took a humanities class and I had a professor. He was an atheist. And the way his perspective on religion, not just Christianity, but all the religions, he would share those things. I remember one time I asked him if I could speak to him after class, and it was like hours. I stayed in his office talking to him, and I just became fascinated with learning what else was out there besides what I had been brainwashed. And yes, I use that term now, brainwashed to believe.
Wow.
That's really sparked and led me on my journey.
When you look at your journey, what do you think was the first thing you tried? Like after learning, what is the first thing you actually said, I'm going to do this?
Okay, don't judge me.
I'm not going to judge you.
I think I want to be Muslim. And it's crazy.
Wait.
Extreme thing to an extreme thing.
Yes.
I learned that was not for me. But that's literally the first thing I tried. I was like, oh, it'd be really cool to wear this really pretty outfits. And then I learned like, oh, wait, hold on. No, this is just
more to it.
Oh my God, it's just as bad. So then that's when I really started exploring a lot of Wiccan and witchcraft things. I started studying herbology, astrology. I got really, really deep into astrology.
Don't pull you in.
I have not departed from that because I still am very grounded in that. But, those are the things that I started joining all these online communities. I actually received my certificate from an online course I was taking. But that's really what's in tarot reading. I got into that probably about 20 years ago. I started exploring that, and which was very devastating when my mom discovered I had a tarot card deck. She cried, and it was so funny because she had the same moment I had with my sister, because she was like, oh, I'm so sad you're going to hell. So that was devastating, which is very ironic now, because now she thinks it's fascinating on my tarot decks that I have. I'm telling you, life is just crazy. Yeah. When I say I was all over the place, I was all over the place. I even dibbled and dabbled a little bit. God, I can't remember what it was called, but it's related to a lot of the stuff that goes on in New Orleans.
Voodoo?
Huh?
Hoodoo?
Yeah, so it was Voodoo. That's what it was. So yes,
Okay.
Hoodoo exists. As I started to study Hoodoo, I discovered Voodoo.
Voodoo. Okay.
Yeah, so I got into that. I was doing my herb jars. I was discovering all the different deities that were out there. And when I say I was all over the place, it has really only been in the last 10 years that I have become more of I just follow my heart, my guide, and I do things more authentically and not so structured. But I think because I grew up so structured, I felt like I was seeking that structure that I always had. And it's only been in the last 10 years that I've released that.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so it's like, I'm very non-judgmental. I'm open to probably just about anything. If it feels right, I just go with it.
So if you had to describe your practice now, would you say that you are more, you say not Wiccan, would you say yes, describe your practice now. Like, what does your spiritual practice look like now?
And so, I get asked that question a lot, and depending on the time of day, the answer may vary. But if you're looking for a definition that people would understand, it would be more agnostic. So, I get asked all the time, "Are you atheist?" And I'm like, do I believe in the God that I was raised to believe in? Not at all. But do I believe that there's just nothing there? Not at all. I believe there is something there. I believe I'm a very spiritual person. I feel the presence of a deity often. I believe in ancestral spirits. I know my ancestors are guiding me now, even through this conversation. So it's more, I would say it's more agnostic and authentic. And I would tell people all the time, don't feel like you have to put a definition
Right.
or assign what you believe to a term to help others feel better and understand. Just be true to you. And that's really the path that I take.
So you mentioned your ancestors,
Yeah.
and and especially with us talking out in the Black community, would you say, one, that you practice ancestral veneration, like you have an ancestor altar? Okay.
Yeah.
When that first began for you, what was that like? Like, what did that look like? And did you feel like your ancestors were the higher power? Can you describe that? Because I feel like some people get that muddied, and I would love for you to, like, in your own words, describe what ancestral veneration looks like.
Yeah. So first, can I just rewind for a second?
Yes.
God, I think I was maybe in middle school, and my grandmother's family, my grandparents' family on my dad's side, they're all from Mississippi. And so we were visiting her mother's mom. So it would be my great grandmother. Her name was Ma. And so I was sitting on the couch in the living room, and she always had stuff boiling on the stove. And she always had these jars everywhere. And it was so bizarre to me, like, because we couldn't eat them or anything like that. But there were always people knocking and coming to her door and exchanging money for these jars.
Shut up! You had a whole root worker in the mail?
I used to be like, as a kid, I'm fascinated. And so whenever I would ask my mom, my dad, my grandmother, it was like this big secret. They're like, shh, shh, no, don't ask about that. You're just a kid. Don't worry about that. And I used to be like, and so you have her living room, you walk there, it's the kitchen, and right out the back door is a garden. She always had a garden, but it wasn't like food. It was herbs and stuff. And I used to be like, why is she always growing the stuff that goes in these jars that we can't eat? And why are people paying for stuff they can't eat? And it was so fascinating to me, but I was always told to basically shut up and stay in a child's place. Traditional Black people-ish when they don't want to answer questions. Okay, so of course, later on, as I get older, it's revealed to me through other family members, she was the local city's basically root doctor. And I'm still to this day so emotional that I didn't get to talk to her about these things before she came. Because it was always just like, and it always felt so good in her house. I feel like I just want to go sit there. And so that's how she earned her money. That was her practice. And no one talks about it even to this day. And so, okay, so now let's fast forward to a month and a half ago. I started having dreams about her. So let me describe her to you real quick. So my great grandmother, she's about 6 feet, 6'1". Look at the blackest thing around you. That's her complexion. The sweatshirt. She's dark with bright green eyes.
Oh.
And slim. So she's tall, slim, almost frail looking with bright green eyes, sunken in face because she's kind of skeletal looking. So that's her image. But I was always fat. Like some of my cousins would be afraid of her versus me. I was just like, oh, I just want to sit up under her, you know? And anybody who knows my kids, my older girls, they also have bright green eyes. They got them from her. And so she started visiting me in dreams just a couple of months ago. Like her image would just be there and I would just sense her with me, even at work, at home. And it's been just kind of weighing on me, like, why is she like, what is happening? And I have been having some shifts in my life. So I'm thinking that's it. Okay, so fast forward, rewind, let's talk about a month ago. I had a reading done by a local psychic here in Chattanooga that I have a lot of respect for. And I didn't give her anything because I just didn't want to. I just want to say, I just want to know what you have for me. Because she was like, what's your topic? I don't want to give you anything. And she was like, well, you have this figure that keeps visiting you. I don't know who they are, but they're very tall, slim, dark. And of course, you already know what happened. The waterworks. I just started crying. And she gave me direction on some things I need to change in my life. And she was like, she's there to guide you through it. And that's what so when you talk about ancestral practice, I believe in it 100%. It's so funny. I have an open request with one of my cousins in Memphis, Tennessee right now to get some pictures of a couple people in our life, because I've always had visions of my great grandfather, her husband, but I never met him. So I do believe in paying homage to our ancestors. I believe they're here to guide us, to comfort us. We can gain wisdom from them. And yeah, so you talk about altar practice, I encourage everybody to do it. Even if it's a very small space, don't make up excuses. I stay in an apartment right now. You know, I'm in a 3-bedroom apartment and I can't make up excuses of, oh, I don't have the space. You have to prioritize that. They deserve all of that.
Yeah. I love the fact that you said they deserve it, because I think that some people, when I listen to them, like I saw a post and the person had posted, people can go to their ancestors, but they can't go to God. And I'm like, and I'm just like, you should have a conversation with someone who does ancestral veneration to understand our petition to our greats. Is it a declaration that we don't think God will? It's an acknowledgement that they're already with the Most High. They're right there. Like the analogy I gave yesterday is like, your ancestors, Big Ma is still saying those prayers for you. She's still saying those prayers for you. But instead of being down here in physical form, her vibration has raised. She's now transcended. She's with spirit now. So now she could go knock on the door. Hi, Divine Father, Mother, can I come in? Yeah, little Susie, down, still down there in the earthly plane, needs a little help. Do you mind if I, make a little, move a few test pieces in their life to get them back in alignment? You did awesome sauce. I'll make sure they leave me something on their shrine. Thank you.
Yes.
It's not a declaration against the creator. It is acknowledging how much closer they are with the creator to facilitate those things that they maybe couldn't tell us about in their life, like your to being able to tell you if you need something, and all of a sudden you start thinking about, I need to add this herb seasoning to my next meal. I need to add this extra something to this. And you're like, I don't know why I want to do that. Well, now like they're trying to like give you that root work they couldn't give you in the physical. They're going to still give it to you from their spiritual side. It's not that they forgot. They're in a higher plane now. And even the family members that said, don't talk about it, will probably come and say, hey, I might not be the best one, but you should petition this particular ancestor, because they're no longer seeing from their material vessel. They're seeing it from their spiritual self. Like, I was really caught up in my body. My bad. I was really in my body back then, but understand I'm not in my body anymore. And I love you unconditionally. And I'm here to support you. When you said you feel her presence, for those that maybe.
She's here now. Yeah.
I was wondering, I won't tell you why I was wondering, but I was wondering if she was. So when you feel her, for you, can you one confirm that's a literal sensation and what it feels like to you? And the first time you felt spirit, like the first time you had a physical sensation of a spirit with you, what that was like?
It was so I don't know if I could say this on your podcast, but
say it.
It honestly felt comparable to when I first ate too many edibles. If I'm just being real, like almost like it wasn't an out of body experience, but you just feel like this vibration from like toe all the way up to your crown. Almost like you're uplifted. So you're high, but almost to where it's a physical high, without having type of thing, no wine, no alcohol, no nothing. But yet you have that feeling. And to be real, it's a little scary. Like, whoa, wait. And you're just looking around like, what is happening? But I've learned to just stay present and take it all in. And now it's just a beautiful thing. I welcome it.
As beautiful.
A sense of peace and calm. And I'm just like, hey, grandma, love you. I'm here. I'm doing the work. I'm here to receive any message you have for me now. And I go with it, but it can be like a physical, almost like a body.
Do you feel like, for your own personal practice, is it only ancestors? Do you connect with any other energies?
I know that I do, and I need to explore that more, because I do.
But you're not sure at this point. You don't have a name. Okay.
Oh, and I need that. But I always make sure that I welcome. And so I have two of my daughters that are also very spiritual like me. The one who's probably the furthest developed is actually my 9-year-old. And Trinity lets me know when there are other spirits present.
Wow, Trinity, what's good? She done moved from cards to energy. Yes.
She'll just be like, Mom, can you feel it? Do you see it? And I'm just like, what's happening? She was like, oh, never mind. We're good. They're just hanging out. But I was just wondering, like, it should just so nonchalant about it. The kids are so freaking amazing. And so I cultivate that. I don't, I never want her to feel like she's abnormal or weird or anything. I normalize it as much as possible for her. And Yeah, I feel like she's going to be part of my journey in that spectrum.
I love the fact that you mentioned her and not poo-pooing it, because I feel like sometimes and it's a learned behavior, but we don't realize, we forget that until there's something traumatic and things like that, ego really sets in. Our kids are still very connected to source. And
Yeah.
so their spiritual perception really is more potent than ours is until we dampen it. It's potent until we dampen it. So I love the fact that you say that you nurtured that in her. Do you teach her, and I feel like it's important for us to talk about it, protection work to make sure she's keeping her, okay.
Yeah, I explained, just so you know, she wears her gemstone bracelets, waist beads every day. She has her sage. All that. So we have all the mediums and tools, but I do talk to her about protecting herself, her spirit, her energy, being, any type of thing that can contaminate her innocence, all that. Thankfully, she's just very advanced emotionally and intelligence wise, so I can have those type of mature conversations. I don't water them down for her at all. I talk to her as if I was talking to another me.
Awesome. That's very good. And I love that you said like
it. So it just so happens, it's so crazy. Her dad now is very hardcore an atheist. But he's very, very hardcore on, you don't tell people what to believe.
Yes, you absolutely don't.
Yeah, and he always told me like, hey, I want her going to church, her believing in anything to be her choice.
Yes.
He said for us to teach her certain things that exist, but we should never tell her that this is what she should believe.
Exactly. That's my feeling on my own sons. It's like, I'm initiated. I want them to come to initiation of their own. I got enough juice and ashe to speak prayer and protection from that side. When they decide what it is, their own relationship with source looks like, I want that to be theirs, because to your point, that desire to be, it's like, one, we're operating from our wound, like, okay, I still need to be structured. It has to be structured, or it doesn't make sense. It's got to be structured, it's not right. And then moving into that, I want to be free.
Yes.
I want to be free. And if you think about, like, if you imagine, if you're to visualize God, goddess, whatever you resonate with, and that's freedom. That is like the epitome of freedom. It's not structured. Have you seen this world? It is like boundless possibilities. The universe, galaxies, multiple dimensions, all of this, and it's like still being created. Stuff is still being created, new. That's freedom. And like, I don't think, even for people who resonate with Jesus, Yeshua is like, you don't need no building. You don't need no structure. You don't need no structure. And that was the point. You need you. That's it. That's it. That's all you need. You need you. You don't need me. You need you. You need you. And that's it. That's the only thing you need. I think that's beautiful. And I love that you are cultivating that with her. Does she still work with cards?
Yes. Oh, yes. Trinity took over another deck of my cards. So for those who don't, Trinity is fascinated with tarot cards.
I love that.
And so she her dolls up on the wall and she does readings, and she likes to study the cards. So she has like the starter set that actually explains on the cards what each one means. And now this second deck that she's taken over from me, one of my goddess sets, it doesn't have the meanings, but she's doing so. I wish I was where I was at 9 years old. Look at the cards and give you a general meaning. And, she'll go back and reference the book, but just following her intuition, she's way further along. Well, at 9, I was nowhere. So to be 9, I'm like, oh my God, if she pursues this, I can only imagine when she gets like 18, 19 years old.
She's powerful in her own right as is. It's going to be amazing to see her continue to grow and develop. Do you remember the first spell you did?
Unfortunately, it wasn't good.
It didn't work, or it did, but not in the way that you wanted it to?
It was more because it was more along the line of black magic, if you put it that way. So what's crazy is when I started first dibbling, so I became obsessed with spells. I started off with doing other people's spells, then I started writing my own, doing my own. And I was so obsessed with black magic. And I was just always looking for somebody who wanted something bad done to someone.
You had magical smoke to give. Like, you had time and smoke.
Because I was like, oh my God, I'm actually good. This stuff is coming true. So I'm just hurting people right and left. And yeah, I learned really quick and the hard way, you can't do that. You don't do that.
If you had to tell somebody who doesn't practice magic what a spell really is in a way that they would understand it in a different perspective, how would you describe what spell work really is?
Well, to me, in Kwani's version, spell work is really just, to me, in one word, is manifestation. That's all it is. It's just manifesting what you want to be. And yeah, I think I want to keep it simple like that.
The tools used are a visual aid. The tools you are my spiritual godmother, my Ialode, she says you are the complicated ritual. You are the complicated tool. You don't need anything else. Everything else is literally for visual support, because but other than that, the word with enough power and intention, that's it. And would you say people are casting spells daily and they don't even realize it?
Every day. In like casual words. And I catch myself even like in my day job giving that feedback when they say certain things. I'm like, ooh, like that's true. You might want to,
Exactly.
I might say, oh yes, keep saying that throughout the day.
Exactly.
And they're always like looking at me. And it's also one of the reasons why I get kind of annoyed when I see these witches or whatever titles they wear now online, social media, where they're selling stuff for hundreds and hundreds of dollars to manifest something. And I'm like, it's so unnecessary.
The words, and that's it. But a lot of people don't have that confidence, or they don't even realize they've been doing it their whole life.
Yes.
Every time I see one of those posts where someone says, I'm an inconsistent person, and I'm just like,
why would you say that?
Yeah, like, I'm an inconsistent friend. Do you think the universe is limiting that to friendship? Or are they just going to make you inconsistent in general because you keep calling that energy to yourself?
Yeah.
So I love that. If you had someone that was like, I am in this crossroads and I feel like I'm interested, I don't know what to do, what would be the biggest piece of advice you would give?
Oh my God. Well, of course, I'm going to say always follow your intuition. I think you have to I'm trying to think how I want to verbalize this. I know if I had someone come to me with this situation, I would encourage them to disconnect from the world per se for a while, almost like fasting. And when I say fasting, a lot of times people go to immediately food fast. No, like social media fast, fasting from outside sources, incorporate a lot of journaling, meditation, those type of things into their life. And I feel like if that's truly what you're seeking, you're going to find it. But don't rely on all these other things out there because it's influencing you even when you don't think it is. Like you may say, oh, I'm all these different things. No, you don't need any of that. Everything you need is right here. Fast from everything and focus on this. And then you'll know what's meant for you.
Yep, that's beautiful. This is so great, Quan. Thank you so much. I love this so much. Okay, so
Don't cry my eyelashes off. I'm trying not to cry because these eyelashes.
you know what? I can't deal. Like, so one, thank you for sharing your story, your candor, everything. And what I love is these all have been so different. So you're the first one to speak about their child coming into it and how you're building it and letting them build that on their own. So I really appreciate you calling that out in the way that you did. And the fact that you're still growing in your own practice after, 20 something odd years is that you're still in a place of growth and learning and coming to even understand what additional that you can do. So I think that's beautiful as well, because it continues to show wherever it's a journey and we're just constantly on it.
Yes. Ooh.
That's
Thank you so much, Diane. I appreciate that you've been a part of my life for many, many years and hopefully many, many more to come.
Indeed. Can you tell everybody how to find you, all of your social? Go ahead and plug yourself.
Oh yeah, I'm always down for a good plug, honey. I'll tell you, I actually accept people on my Facebook. I know everybody doesn't, but it's Nikwonn Robinson Cooke. And then on Instagram and anywhere else you can imagine, my business is Kim Jury. So KEM_jewelry. And then of course, kimjury.com. I would love to connect with you. You could definitely drop me a note, letting me know that I inspired or touched you in some way. I like to take questions. I'm all about interacting. So also info@kimjury.com if you just want to shoot an email over. I would love to hear.
Thank you. Her waist beads be popping. Yeah. At one point I had like 12 on. I had a real problem. Real problem. I'm wearing a rose quartz bracelet. It's actually hers. So yeah. I had a major.
You're so hilarious.
A little addiction, but thank y'all for listening. And yeah, this is such a great conversation. Make sure you leave questions, reach out to her. All of her links and stuff will be, if you're on YouTube, the description box. And if you're on the podcast, it'll be in the description box. Thanks for listening.
All right, later.
Bye.